7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's start right out. Hey, what happened?
Shake my hand. Hands are sweating. I don't know why. I think too much coffee. Welcome. My name is Dean. This is our program for today. We're busy, too busy. We've got Wayne Hanna and Alex Scooby from the Zen AF podcast. They're going to join us a little later on. We're going to talk about Facebook. They changed their name today to Meta. Also, we'll get into some the harassment of nurses. It sounds like all you anti-vax truckers like to take all the knowledge you have and beat up nurses with it. So we'll come to their aid today, and we've got lots of other stuff going on. And joined on this beautiful Thursday, I think it's 15 degrees outside, with James DeFiore from Blackball Media at James DeFiore on Twitter, and my friend and yours, editor of Quillette. Very bright man. Please welcome to the program, Mr. John K., ladies and gentlemen. John K's back.
How are you?
Hi. You like that? Do you like the two-person clap, or would you rather have no clap? You tell me, because we have you on from time to time.
Yeah, I think the critical mass for clapping is like 8 people, and when it's less than that, yeah, it's probably like a sort of hushed, awed silence is probably preferable. Yeah.
Would you like that? Because we are in awe of you. I mean, I was looking at your Twitter bio today, because I was, prepping for the program, and we follow you on Twitter.
So wait a second. You were prepping for the program, and you read my whole bio?
Yeah, the whole bio. Yeah.
Whoa. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't. This is the first time I'm getting like a look into the sort of back rooms of how these things get made. I mean, I didn't know you got to the office so early.
Oh,
it's just so succinct, though.
Wow.
Dude, yeah. 140 characters doesn't read itself. Neither
280.
Yeah,
they doubled it.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Apologize, you're right.
Yeah.
But I want to go through before we start, because I love having you on. You're the editor of Quillette. It says this in your bio here on Twitter, at John K. The picture is your beautiful disc from disc golf, which you have a passion for, which I think is awesome. But then we get into the good stuff. You're an author. You're a ghostwriter for the National Post. You're a columnist. You've appeared in TEDx symposiums. You're educated at McGill and Yale. You're a gamer. This is where it gets fun. You're a lapsed Jew. You like Lego, disc golf, and tweets monthly. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm the only person that finds that funny, but it's like there are very few people who are super honest about themselves and what they do in their Twitter bios, and you just laid it right out there, and I love it. I'm sorry, I do.
Well, yeah, but I got to correct it. It's true. I am an editor at Quillette, but sometimes people say I'm the editor. My boss, her name is Claire Lehman. Maybe some of your listeners know. Mm-hmm. She's the big boss. She's in Sydney in Australia. I'm one of her toiling minions. So on my business card it says editor, but I don't want to give anyone the impression that I call the shots at Quillette. Everyone has a boss, including me.
Yeah. No, I get that, but you're in Canada, right? Because Quillette's out of Australia.
There's a guy. So my colleague Jamie Palmer works in London, and then my colleague Colin Wright is in the United States, and then there's me, and there's 1 or 2 other people. It's a small shop. Sometimes at one point I was calling myself Canadian editor, but most of the stories I'm working on usually aren't by Canadian authors. Although I do love recruiting Canadian authors. Although lately, we talked about before you started recording, I'm spending probably at least half my time on the podcast now, which is weird because 5 years ago I barely knew what a podcast was, and now it's half of what I do.
When did you start it?
Well, I started with a podcast with Deborah So called Wrong Speak, which we did 16 of those, with Dan Delmar out of Montreal, who basically coached us through it. He's a CJAD radio veteran. Was very patient with us, and then when Quillette started up 3 years ago, I think, the podcast, and we're now at 4.2 million downloads. So we're very proud of that.
No kidding.
Yeah, we make money. I never thought people would pay money to advertise on any show that featured my voice, but apparently we live in a weird age where you can sell anything, even this.
Well, dude, it's a good, it's got to be a good. Deborah So is terrific. I mean, she's a free thinker. She's very bright. She's a sexologist of sorts. I don't want to short sell her.
She has a PhD in sexology.
Yeah.
Now, there was a mismatch in terms of talent I always said that I played Oates to her Hall, and I played Garfunkel to her Simon. Like it was clear that because she had the PhD and the expertise,
Yeah.
like people were tuning in to hear her, and it was like, and John, I was, I was the guy with the accordion and the monkey, and she, and anyway, and I think she has, since then she's written a book, and she's a columnist. So her future is extremely bright. She's a very, very, very smart woman and a good podcaster.
Yeah, I would love to, you're gonna have to forgive me. What's the name of the podcast? When do you put it out, and where can we find it?
Well, my podcast is the Quillette podcast, and if anybody reads Quillette, we were talking before. Half of my guests are people who also write for Quillette. So
convenient to find guests that way.
It actually is, and I feel guilty because it's inescapable that sometimes when you're editing an article, as you're editing it, you're thinking, "Wow, this would be a really good person to have on the podcast," and it does happen. And it happens the opposite. Sometimes you're interviewing someone for the podcast, and you realize that this person knows a ton, and a couple of months later, you've got them writing under their byline. So I think, but this is like a common story these days, where 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, people would do one thing, right? Like they were a writer, or they're, and now I think just people, James, you were talking before that you're writing a book, and I think people have to hustle in different media to stay busy these days.
Definitely.
Yeah, very different, right? Like it is. And John Kay joins us. He's the editor of Quillette here in Canada. At John Kay on Twitter is where you can find him. Quillette the podcast, wherever you get your fine podcasts. And does it kind of, because I think this has been like sea change moment in the last couple of years. For sure, the pandemic has sped it up because everybody's doing content at home. From safer environments, but. When you said something that intrigued me, and I talked to a lot of people about this because of the business that we do. We also do third-party podcasts. We help people monetize podcasts. We do the foundational work, all the stuff that like rehab. We take people out of traditional media and we help them into this area. And the one thing that everybody says to me, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it. You said, you even make money, like you get paid to do your podcast. Now you got 4.5 million downloads in and around there. Are you kind of like does it wake you up a bit about the decentralization possibilities when it comes to content delivery for people? In the world that we live in, where media is really the narrative is being driven by very few entities, and a lot gets missed.
Yes and no, because I know people who listen to tons of podcasts, but if you look at their podcast list, it's like the New York Times podcast. They listen to BBC podcasts. They listen to podcasts that are produced by huge media companies, and that's fine. I mean, there's a lot of good podcasts like that. And then on the other hand, I know people, and I guess I'm one of them, that the podcasts I listen to tend to be like really niche. Like I love historical podcasts. I've written about it. There's one called The History of Rome. There's one called Revolutions. I'm listening to one, History of England. I just discovered it's fantastic. And these are podcasts that were History of Rome. A guy by the name of Mike Duncan, originally out of Seattle, started in 2007 as a great example, because when he started, he had like 100 listeners. He wasn't even a professional historian. He's probably done something like 400 podcast episodes since. And now he's internationally celebrated author. His podcast has I'm guessing tens or hundreds of thousands of listeners. So he himself, he's part of the media establishment now. So you do get and then you get other people, it's maybe some of your listeners have heard of this. I think it's called the Chapo Roadhouse or something, this podcast out of the US, this left-wing podcast, which I think makes tons of money and has a lot of, it's like famous within sort of left-wing podcasting subculture, but it hasn't really it's not part of what you would call mainstream media. See, and then there's something like Quillette, which is hard to classify. It's sort of we get 25, 30,000 downloads a week, but it tends to be sort of a black turtleneck, academic, scientific podcast. One thing I did notice is there was a big uptick in listenership and ad revenue during the pandemic. We were typically doing one ad per episode, so one ad a week. And then suddenly we were doing 2 ads a week and sometimes 3 ads a week. And we were saying no to new advertisers at one point. And I'm sure it's different across different sectors, but based on my anecdotal evidence, there was just a lot of people spending time listening to podcasts in the first 6 months of the pandemic. That's tapered off a little bit. But when you're in the podcasting business, you get an insight into people's behavior. You know, some of the people who email me, like sometimes they say, you know, I listen while I'm driving, or I listen while I'm walking my dog, or like you realize that even within your own little podcasting niche, there's different tribes of people who are listening to you. So it's not like TV or radio maybe where it's just like a mass broadcast thing.
Right.
There's a little bit more intimacy, I think, because you're just in more regular email and social media contact with your listeners.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those incredible things, and we'll move off podcasting and the tech part of it, but the niche thing is incredible. Like we just put a podcast on called Offload Delay. It's for first responders. It's like a self-help first responders thing for firemen, ambulance people, or paramedics. I think they call them ambulance people. I think they've moved on to paramedic from ambulance people, I think, recently. But anyway, like paramedics. And it's amazing because out of the gate, that thing like smashed all records that we had for brand new podcasts that we just put on the air. And it was amazing because we targeted people with it that we knew would like it, right? And we live in that world. And to your point, radio, television, they would just throw these big dragnets because that was it. And it was, you hope to grab a people, but you can literally target people with your content now. And people will look for things that they're very interested in. Case in point, your history stuff. You love history. I do too. I listen to neuroscience podcasts. I listen to stoicism podcasts, philosophy podcasts. And I know exactly where to get them and what interests me. And so that's kind of the benefit of the world that we live in right now.
Before we pivot away from podcasts, Jonathan, I was just curious what your thoughts were on. Is it surprising, given like the click era that we've been living in for 15, 20 years, that a medium that produces long form content would be so popular? Did that surprise advertisers because it was genuinely sort of an anomaly, or did it surprise them because it went completely against how they make money?
Sorry, I just got my phone beeping and booping. So that's my.
You got a roast in the oven you got to go turn?
No, so I have this ring thing, which is on my front door, and every time a squirrel runs across the lawn, ring something. But
that is the most ADHD thing I've ever heard in my life.
But what's great about Ring, it's RING. And by the way, this is not a podcast ad. You can adjust the sensitivity, but I like the high sensitivity because at the end of the day, you can create a sort of video montage of every time there was activity on your front door. And I could pretend like I'm sort of 80 years old and like watching this sort of closed circuit camera in my assisted living facility. And it was just like, oh, there's a squirrel. Oh, that's the one that with half a tail. And the mailman.
So no to long form content.
There's a mailman who anyway. So that's a total segue. So the long form content is it's such an interesting question because I have done 45-minute podcasts where I get people complaining, saying like, "Oh God, you just scratched the surface." That they'll say, "I like Jordan Peterson," or "I like Sam Harris because," or "I like Joe Rogan because it's like 3 hours sometimes." Like, and people some people love that, and then, I absolutely can't do that, and I think you have to obey your natural attention span. Like the most fascinating guest in the world, my natural attention span as a host, as an interviewer, is an hour is the max, and I have to obey that because if I stretch it out past an hour, it's not. I'm not giving people my best. I also hate flabby podcasts. So this is why I remember back in the day I used to listen to Slate Gabfest, it was called, or whatever. I think that's what it was called, and it was like 3 or 4. Media insiders, and like the first 10 minutes was them just sort of slapping each other's backs and asking about their weekend and a few inside jokes. And I remember like, why are you wasting my time like this? And then the thing would go on for an hour, or it seemed like an hour. And I found it insulting because it's like, you're presuming that I want to listen to you kibitz for 10 minutes. Like my time is so, cheap that like this is the most valuable thing I could be doing. And yet there are people who like that. There are people who love the kibitzing. And so I think it just goes to personality. I like a tight podcast. I like a sort of question answer format. And I edit all my own podcasts myself on my computer. And there's a lot that gets left on the cutting room floor because I try and keep things tight. That's just my
Yeah.
style. That's my style. That's my style of editing. And it's not for everybody. You know, some people like more of a conversational style, but that's not me.
So you edit your own podcast?
Yeah.
See, like this is that world that I fucking love. I love the fact you've got the editor of Quillette in Canada literally editing his own podcast.
I love it. It's my favorite thing to do in media. I use Audacity, and as soon as I got into multi-track editing, and I sort of like watched online videos about how to use the advanced features, and
Yep.
I absolutely love it.
For you.
And it gives me such a sense of control, because when I did my old podcast, we had this professional producer. Who, by the way, was technically a lot better than me. I mean, it's like anything else, you know, a true professional, and anyone who listens to my podcast will know that I'm not a professional sound engineer. But my old podcast, Wrong Speak, the technical production was better, but it would take weeks, and I didn't have direct editorial control over the product, which bothered me. I learned how to use audio editing software because I wanted to do the interviews, and I wanted fine-grained control of what the product would sound like. And now it's one of the favorite parts of my job is the actual editing of podcasts. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's awesome, dude. It's great to hear you talk about it because, no one, I say it all the time, no one's immune from doing the work. Doesn't matter who you are or what your paycheck looks like, what your title is. The fact that you get in the trenches because you love it is incredible, and it's a great statement about the industry. Speaking of the industry, the traditional media industry is what it is, and Netflix has done a number, and we go to them for stuff, and they're now the touch point for these issues that we're experiencing in the trans community. James and I have talked about this, and we kind of run around about it. And I know that you've been very outspoken about the Chapelle thing on your Twitter feed, but we talked about it this week. Chapelle's been canceled again somehow, and I would love your take on the entire thing. I don't know if you've seen The Closer, but just the aggressiveness with which people are treating this man, the aggressiveness with which we're told the trans community is being treated as a result of this man, and of course what's happened since. But what do you make of the whole Chapelle thing?
So, look, Chapelle has not been canceled, and there are people who use the term cancel culture in a very loose, overly broad sense. A guy who's making tens of millions of dollars, who's scoring, I think, 97% audience approval on Rotten Tomatoes, and a guy who has Netflix executives behind him. Like, Netflix executives were pretty clear, like, to their own employees, that we're not taking this content off our streaming service. And they could, like, it's the flick of the switch. Not just this special, all of Chapelle's content can be taken off. However, it's extremely popular. It's some of the most popular content on Netflix. And this is actually one of the interesting subplots, is, as others have noted, if you go to Rotten Tomatoes and look for reviews of The Closer, which is Chapelle's latest special, as many people know, Rotten Tomatoes is this aggregator where it looks at reviews and reaction from a lot of different sources and gives it an aggregate score out of 100, and that is subdivided into two scores typically, where one is the audience score. It's sort of like ordinary people like you and me, and then there's this sort of critic score, which is, if you're the TV critic at the LA Times or something like that, or you're a New Yorker writer, or anyone, a professional media critic, and that score. And often it's the divergence between those two that tell you a lot about which way our culture is swinging. So in the case of Chapelle, it's like, I don't know, 95 or 97% audience score. Everyone loved it. And then the critic score is like, I don't know, 30 or 40%, because if you're a critic, you're not allowed to like it. If you say, yeah, this was pretty funny, you might get your colleagues jumping down your throat and saying, "What? Oh, it's funny to literally exterminate people with your jokes." Like, so you can't say those things, and as a result, you're forced to manufacture opinions that are consistent with ideology. By the way, the same thing happened when Louis C.K. came to Toronto.
That's right.
As we know, Louis C.K. is a different example, because Louis C.K. actually did bad things. Like, it wasn't just he told jokes about people you're not supposed to tell jokes about. Like, Louis C.K. has admitted to misconduct that was traumatizing to female colleagues, and yet.
But he asked them if he could traumatize them.
Yeah, and I'm only introducing this subject.
I know, I'm just kidding.
I know you're kidding, but it's I'm gingerly stepping over landmine territory, and I got to the other side, and then you brought me back into it.
That's right.
So
Fun having James around, isn't it?
yeah, God,
I'm just doing my job, Jonathan. I don't know what
where-
the fucking problem is.
where's the mute button? Anyway,
Oh,
so
I'll show you.
okay, yeah, touche. But anyway, when he came, I think it was to Yuck Yucks, after a couple of years of sort of being in Purda. The tickets were going for like $200 or something on StubHub, and I know because I tried to see the show, and I ended up not going because I could only get one ticket, and I wanted to bring other people. I didn't want to go by myself, and people loved it. I think he played 3 sold out shows in Toronto. But then when you looked at the reviews in, like, I think it was Now Magazine or whoever deigned to even admit that they had attended such a lowbrow show by a person who was a menace to women, it was all dripping with condescension and how I didn't laugh once. I could barely even listen to the jokes. I was so busy scanning the room for all the men's rights troglodytes who no doubt were around me and probably thinking horrible things as they listened to this this hero of theirs. And this is a real problem because we're also often talk about divisiveness in our society. Typically, we're talking about the political sphere, but it now extends to what we're supposed to laugh about. And, it's very telling. This, on the other side, is this woman, Hannah Gadsby, who is like, I'm not even sure the term comic applies, because it's a comedian who kind of, it's this confessional humor that's not really jokes. It's just sort of social commentary. It's the sort of stuff you don't laugh at, but you're supposed to kind of clap at. It's sort of ideological recognition. And she's gone to the forefront of the criticism of Chapelle. And if Chapelle came to Toronto and did a bunch of shows, he might be able to play the Rogers Center. Gadsby would probably play Tim Hortons. And on the other hand, if Gadsby came to Toronto to do a show, that's an exaggeration, by the way. I think at one point she was scheduled to play Roy Thompson Hall before the pandemic killed that show. But I guarantee that if Gadsby came to Toronto, like, the arts media would become incontinent with excitement about the opportunity to interview this, like, stunning and brave icon of modern comedy.
Did you just say incontinent?
I did.
Like
they would go to the bathroom in their pants, is what I meant. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. That's when
it's
incontinent.
so true.
That's
so true. I know what it means.
Yeah, but thank you for making me say what it means, because that makes it classier. Incontinent.
But I understand the analogy. Like, I get what you're saying, because
in their pants. Do you understand?
Yeah. People, all
not
of
in the
it. Yes.
bathroom.
Well,
actually,
I know.
It's one of those words that sounds kind of like august. And
I thought it was a breakfast that you get at like a hotel.
In a sense, it is. And if it's one of the words that sounds respectable until you explain what it means, which you made me do.
Yeah, thank you. You're welcome. Yeah. But you bring up a point, because it's amazing to watch. It's almost like if people that didn't have an interest, some kind of selfish interest in, Dave Chapelle versus the trans community, or the trans community versus Dave Chapelle, the fallout would be nil to me. Like, I watching Hannah Gadsby get to the front of the line, and sure, did Dave introduce her name to it? Because that was one of the conditions that he said he gave Netflix. Netflix gave him, is that he had to admit Hannah Gadsby wasn't funny, which I don't find her to be terribly amusing, but that's not my kind of humor, right? But she puts, her trauma out as an act. That's what she does.
That's
Is
fine.
this the double mastectomy one?
I don't think that's what it says on her Twitter.
No,
bio.
I'm just asking. No, okay. So I never heard
the
of
double
her
mastectomy one.
the one that
woman.
Yeah. The one that went on stage and did it like an act. I watched it with my girlfriend at the time, or my wife, I guess, at the time. And it was a woman who took off her shirt because she had a double mastectomy. It was just like this social commentary thing, and everyone loved. It was exactly how you described. They clapped for her, but didn't laugh with her. Yeah. I don't know if that's the same one or not. But
it might be. I don't know. Yeah. But I just, to your point, John, is that, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's social media, but it's almost like when this comes up, it's like there are certain groups of people and certain people that rub their hands together and go, all right, it's go time for me. Now is where I shine.
Absolutely. And I'm a prime example, because I'm not a huge Dave Chappelle fan. I think he's funny enough, but the only reason I watched The Closer was because people told me not to watch The Closer.
That's right.
Same.
And but like no, and a lot of his humor is he's a very talented comedian. But you know me, I've admitted to this before that I'm an intellectual snob, and so you know, I could be watching BBC America, you know, instead of something on Netflix, which I wouldn't subscribe to anyway if it weren't for my family. But I watched it. The reason is that people ramp this stuff up because the test is, okay, can we get this guy canceled? Can we get Netflix to take him off the air? Because if we can, it means we have the power. And so it's almost like an election. You know, one reason people care about elections is about who's going to be in power for the next couple of years. But they also care about elections because it's a show of strength, right? Even if the policies don't change, as they often don't in a lot of G7 countries, it's a nice way to say who's ascendant, who's winning, who's losing, who's popular, who's, you know, who hasn't been invited to the rich kid's birthday party. And it's the same thing because if the Netflix employees that walked out and in fact staged this quite hilarious protest against Dave Chappelle, if they had successfully pressured Chapelle, the CEO of Netflix, to get Chapelle off the air, much like the Spotify protesters who tried to get Spotify to take Joe Rogan off the air, if they had succeeded in that task, it would have been a show of strength. It would have said to the world, we're in charge, you can't laugh at this. And if you do laugh at this, or worse yet, tell jokes that encourage other people to laugh at this gospel, you will be canceled too. It is a warning. It's a saber rattling maneuver. And in this case, it failed. But that's why people armor up for this stuff, because they know that the world is watching and it's a test. And if they win, they get the show of power on their side. And if the other side wins, it means they have the power. So that's kind of what's going on here, in my opinion.
What do you think about, like, I mean, I don't think Joe Rogan fits this example, but is Dave Chappelle sort of a glitch in the Matrix? The Matrix being that sort of social panic trends that we see in various issues. And the second part of that question is, do you think that the trans issue itself is really the thing that often gets, like, if someone was accusing Joe Rogan of being racist, it probably would have been a lot worse for him than it was because they were saying that he was transphobic like 6 months ago.
I disagree. I disagree.
And well, hold on. And then the Chapelle thing, the thing that strikes me, the reason why I would call him the glitch is because he's a black man.
Yeah.
Who apparently is lower on the hierarchy of victimology or whatever than white biological males. And
I totally. So you had me at glitch because he is kind of like this guy who, as you say, you know, it's not like he was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, as I understand, and he's a black guy, and the way he speaks is very much like it's appeals to the black demographic, and everything about him suggests that you would think that all the same people who in the summer of 2020 were demanding, says, you must listen to black voices, you must stop decentering white narratives such as the narratives of wealthy Netflix workers, and listen to the authentic cultural expression of black voices. That's what we were told to do. It's not a bad exhortation. And then this glitch in the Matrix says, oh, hey, so you're listening to me. Okay, well, you know, as a black man, don't you think it's weird that like all these people who went to Harvard and Yale and Haverford and Oberlin College think that men can become women and women can become men? That's kind of fucked up, right? And everyone's like me saying, yes, Dave, it is quite fucked up. And all these progressives are horrified. They're like, no, that's not what you should be saying with your microphone. You should be talking about how we need to abolish the police. Make jokes about abolishing the police and we will laugh at them. And Dave Chappelle is a glitch because he says, no, actually, I don't want to make jokes about that. I want to make jokes about, I'm not going to repeat the problem. I was thinking before that we did this, I want to do a riff of some of the best jokes from The Closer. The problem is all the best jokes in The Closer involve saying the N-word. And
whenever that comes up, just say Lachlan instead.
No, but the thing is, when I recited the joke in my own mind, saying, quote, N-word, end quote, instead of saying the actual N word, which of course I would never do, I'm like, it's not as funny. And so I'm going to have to disappoint everybody by not doing a Dave Chapelle riff.
Attaboy.
Yeah.
But thanks for doing it for us off air before the show began. That was
Oh,
awesome.
totally. Yeah. I'm sorry.
yeah.
I dropped those N-bombs. I'm sorry about that. But I had to do that. Anyway, so yeah, but it is a glitch because, again, I was talking before about how it's about proving who's boss, and intersectionality is about proving who's boss, right? It's like, who's on top, who's the bottom. It's like, oh, you're queer and disabled, but I'm black and Hispanic. So, and so when Dave Chapelle comes around and it's like, okay, you are a rich white asshole who works at Netflix and has unpronounceable pronouns. And Dave Chapelle is a rich, privileged by class, but black male comic, but making jokes about LGBT stuff that we all know is hilarious, but we're not allowed to laugh at. And from an intersectionality, if I may use that term, intersectionality analysis,
You may.
it's a fascinating thing. Which one of those people gets to win? It's like those video games where, like the kids talk about, I'm going to versus you. It's hilarious. Kids in video games, they use versus as a verb. They say, oh, it's
Reversing each other.
Yeah, I can't come to dinner. I'm versing a Pokemon or whatever. So it's like, so here you have, Chadwick Thane III, who went to Haverford and uses they them pronouns, and has been diagnosed with 17 different kinds of gender fluid conditions, and he is like some kind of, I don't know, vice president at Netflix, and he feels oppressed because this rich black guy is making jokes about trans people. That's a legitimately interesting versus. That's like, I don't know, Pokemon versus Mario. I don't know, whatever. It's but we can't, like, I can sit back. I don't have a dog in this race, right? Because I'm not a member of either subculture. So I can just like sit back and say, oh, this is going to be good. I wonder. but the thing is,
Hold on. You're touching on the same thing, and I say this to James all the time. Like when these issues come up, I'm like, just grab your popcorn because there's a statement about the rest of the world here, right?
Yes, but you know what? What's amazing is that this social justice thing, all they're producing really is entertainment for people like you and me.
Like us, yeah.
Yeah, and we're like the scum of society. Like we're super cis-ish white males. I mean, I'm Jewish, but that doesn't count anymore. I mean, God, it's
it does on the hierarchy
it
of
doesn't. Come on,
you want to
really,
you want to get
kind of white
intersectional.
guy.
No,
You play. Jewishness plays in the intersection race. It really does. Sure, it does.
It's like, you know what? It's a rounding error. It's like
it's not even that, because the left is in charge of all this shit.
It's a
and
tie
they
goes
hate Israel.
runner.
So,
Okay, so if the trans group is at the top of the power center pecking order when it comes to telling people what's funny and what isn't funny, and then you've got being black is in there too. Where is being Jewish? Does it not enter into the scope of things? I think it would.
Yeah, we're agents. I mean, that's we get our 15%.
part
But
of the white supremacist structure.
Look, when Hannah Gadsby fights Chapelle, I get my 15% on both ends. I don't care who wins. All I care is they both get on stage. I mean, what they actually say. By that time, I've gone to take a schwitz. One thing. Sorry, there's one thing I want to say though.
That means sauna, ladies and gentlemen.
You and I, the three of us, can have this discussion in a kind of like we're having fun with it. I talk about it at arm's length. Like I said, I don't have a dog in the race. It's an expression. I'm not comparing anybody to dogs. However, one thing that I feel bad for people who are social justice diehards is they can't have this kind of conversation. It can't be like, okay, look, Dave, what are we going to do here? I got all this pronoun stuff going on. You're super black. Like, let's, like, what are we going to do? Instead, the LGBT person has to basically writhe around on the floor and play passive aggressive, like you're literally exterminating me with your jokes. I feel holocausted. Like, every time I hear a peal of laughter, a little bit of me is peeled away like an onion, and soon there will be nothing left. And so Netflix executives have to save me by taking this content off the air because they've been told that that's the game they have to play, that it can't be a straightforward aggressive battle of words, they have to be passive aggressive, and it's tedious and infantilizing, and I can't take it anymore, which is why I just make jokes about it, because they're pathetic. So there's that, and they have to live that sad and pathetic life. And when they are shown to the general public, as was shown, you guys all saw that video of the so-called protest outside.
Oh, this one here, the one, yeah. This one of the dude. This guy kills me, by the way. This guy is so funny.
I like
you gotta, yeah. He shows up to protest for Dave at the Netflix protest.
Yeah.
And in his fervor, he gets attacked by all the people protesting against Dave. They rip his pro-Dave sign down. They then tell him he's got a weapon and then chase him down because they made the weapon for him. Yeah.
And you're watching this, and the only person I like in this video, the only person in this, look at this little dude who's like using his arms to save.
Don't assume gendered.
To save Christmas.
Don't assume that's a dude.
Yeah.
Sorry, a dude like humanoid. Anyway, the only person in this video I like is the fat guy who likes Dave Chapelle. He's the only likable person here. Everyone here.
He's like that fat guy from Game of Thrones. Sam Gamgee. He never did, or no, that's
Sam.
the wrong
No,
one.
I
Wes Gamgee's. That's Lord of the Rings. I know what you mean.
Yeah,
He's like a happy guy. He's not being violent. He's just like, hey, I'm just here to do the same thing you're doing, but for the other guy.
Right. Everybody else is like the spoiled bad guy from a 1980s movie about camp kids. Like he's the likable one. He's the every person, and even when he gets thrown out, he has a sense of humor about it.
What is it about? What is
sorry,
it?
Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. I just want to know, like, sometimes when we talk about anti-vaxxers on this show, I have a sympathetic, like, there's a part of my brain that's sympathetic towards a portion of the anti-vaxxers or the vaccine hesitant, because I just think that some people don't know how to research. They don't always have in the front of their mind, this might not be true when they hear something on the internet and stuff. When it comes to the trans activists, like people that you see there, or people that are just sort of like, yeah, I'll go along with this. Should I give any like time thinking about, well, maybe their perception is, sometimes I think that their perception is that if you say the name Bruce Jenner, you're basically saying the N-word. Like it's on that level now. And I'm just trying to figure out if this is like something that we need to work on by I'm going to sound like one of them. Maybe they just need to be educated about this subject a little bit more.
There's a couple of things going on. I think that if you spend years in an environment where you tell people that if you say the word Voldemort, that it creates a sort of brain injury, I think that perception becomes reality. These historical podcasts I listened to, there was some fascinating religious battles among early Christians, and I guess the Arian heresy of, I think it was like the 4th century, and Orthodox Christians fighting against what we now call Catholics. And what would happen is some local politician would change the way a certain prayer was said on Sunday, and people would hear the prayer, and if it didn't align with their sect, they would just go bananas and start burning the town down. And the historical record shows that these people heard those prayers and responded to it as if they'd been assaulted. Here's sometimes Muslims will see a Quran desecrated and they'll respond in a violent way. History shows that there are instances in which people have been trained to see acts of symbolism, including the symbolism that accompanies spoken words, as if it is a sort of form of assault, and that they respond in a medical way. I personally don't think it's healthy to train people to react to the words Bruce Jenner as if they were being hit on the head with a 2x4. And if you go through life thinking that, it's natural that you're going to go through life in this state of sort of just infantilized vulnerability, where you demand the right to censor everybody's speech because you have this knowledge that you'll be brought to your knees in a state of agony by the utterance of certain syllables. That's not a healthy way to go through life, and it's not a healthy thing to teach people. The other thing I would say is I know people who are in their 20s and have went to college, have gone to college, and have been in that environment, and have been in ultra progressive white environments where intersectionality is treated as gospel. And look, if you're a straight, white, non-indigenous, wealthy, able-bodied, mentally healthy student in an environment where intersectionality is gospel, literally the only thing you can do to move yourself up the hierarchy is announce that you're genderqueer or gender fluid or non-binary. None of these words I'm giving have any definition whatsoever that has any sort of precision. Being transgender does have a precise definition. It means you have gender dysphoria. But it is very tempting, and I think we need to understand that temptation, that if you're a privileged white kid, sometimes the only way you could move up the status hierarchy within your peer group is to announce that you are some exotic variant of gender. And it's just like kind of behavioral economics. If you say you're going to have higher status, you might even have higher job opportunities if you're in the arts or academic sector. I think that's certainly true. It's actually made explicit in a lot of job requirements for government now and stuff, or at least in terms of what they're looking for, who gets a leg up. Why would young adults not be encouraged to imagine that they answer to these very vague descriptions, non-binary and gender fluid and whatever, and B, then also weaponize the vulnerability that goes with that as a means to silence critics, silence comedians, tell skeptics to shut up, and especially comedians, actually, because once people start laughing, if you say, "Oh, I'm something called gender fluid," once the first guy in the room laughs and he's allowed to laugh, everybody laughs because it is funny, because it's ridiculous, because there's no such thing as gender fluid. It's bullshit. And once somebody is allowed to say it, someone like me, people are obsessed with making sure I'm punished. Or somebody who's a billion times more famous than me, like David Chapelle, if he makes a joke about it, they are a billion times more motivated to shut that person up. Because like I say, once one person is allowed to laugh at it, everybody's allowed to laugh at it. And if it weren't funny, they wouldn't care about shutting the comedian up. It's because it is funny that they have to shut them up.
And because it's funny, it's popular. Then therein is a chain reaction. John K., editor of Quillette, at John K. on Twitter. We gotta roll, but I want to thank you. Before I let you go, I want to ask if you're going to go to Zanzibar again for your third booster shot.
Man,
here,
vaxxed and waxed, check and check. So,
no pass, no ass.
I just want to.
I'm more of a breast man.
This is a tweet that John put out. Great to see Toronto's live entertainment industry take responsibility for promoting sound science-based public health. And he took a shot of Zanzibar's the front of their building. It says "No pass, no ass, vaxxed and waxed." So you're good.
I mean, what is vaxxed and waxed? Like vaxxed and waxed. Oh, sorry. I just realized they mean the entertainers. They're not the clinical.
They're waxed.
Okay, I'll wax. Why wasn't the wax? Like
imagine that the bouncer checks everyone to make sure they're waxed.
Okay, I'll show you, but I don't see how this should be a qualification to get in. But I will say, I was at the corner of Dundas and Yonge, which is, for people who aren't in Toronto, that's kind of like the center of the commercial area of downtown. I don't think I'd been there for like a year because of COVID and because I'm as old as the hills. And I'm scared of young people. So it was like
I used to buy drugs there.
I was there because I had to get something at Old Navy for my daughter for her Halloween costume. I won't get into it. But
drugs.
I wholesome. While you're destroying society, I'm
just myself, John. It's okay.
So I was at Gould. That's where Ryerson is. So I think it's just above Dundas. There is a new for me, like kind of outdoor taco place. I think it's called Mexi on the southeast corner, Gould and Yonge. It's like 100 yards from Zanzibar, and you do not have to be vaxxed and waxed to eat tacos at this place. It's like the best taco I've ever had in my life. There's like this row. There's this row of outdoor places. One place that sells churros, and I was too late for that. There's a fried chicken place. There is like a seafood place. They're kind of like outdoor, sort of like, those rail cars they convert into restaurants. Yeah. It's kind of like that. And it's on the southeast corner. It's Gould and Yonge. The taco place, I think it's called Mexi or whatever. I was like, I couldn't even see because I was like having such a rhapsodic, almost sexual experience from this taco. and I didn't get the name of the place, but it was like the best taco I've ever had. And I just, again, we talked about podcasting.
No taco.
No, yeah, it's we'll put that on the whiteboard and work on it. But if this taco place is interested in podcast advertising opportunities, I would be honored to
me too.
do the host testimonial on that taco. Because man,
was that good, huh? It was a good taco.
Taco took me to a Zanzibar within me. It was the Zanzibar within was accessed through the concave portion of the taco. All right, I got to go.
All right, man.
That was fun.
John,
bye, everybody.
Appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon. That is John K. You're welcome. Editor of Quillette Magazine. Fuck, that guy makes me laugh. Hello.
Wow. Wow.
Ladies and gentlemen, Alex Scooby and Wayne Hanna from Zen as Fuck TV. Sorry, guys.
Wow.
Both of you kind of look like MC Search in your own way.
That fucking guy said fucking taco the wrong way about 50
I knew it. As
times, and I'm
soon
like,
as he said taco, I'm like, Alex is gonna go off.
Fucking guy.
Are you
He
Mexican?
seemed like a nice dude, though. He seemed like a nice guy. This guy.
Are you Mexican?
Super
Is that
smart.
why? Is it
No,
like-
he's not.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
fucking-
Alex, you're not on your studio mic, man.
Fuck. What do I do?
Am I on mine?
Yeah, you're
What do I
good,
do?
dude. Wayne, you sound great. You just need to change the input to your studio mic. That's all you got to do. Yeah, you got to change your operating system studio mic. But this is Wayne Hanna. Have you guys met James yet? James DeFiore from Blackball Media. No, you guys haven't met. One of the co-hosts of the program. You know James. You know James,
Oh my
guys.
God,
you know
man.
James.
It's been like how long, man?
Jesus Christ. Barbecue guy? Are you barbecue guy?
Don't even tell.
I'm fuck. I don't listen. I've done a lot of drugs. I have no idea. Like,
Yeah, but you know what? Like, you spend as much time as we did together trying to get to know each other, and then you're just like, "Are you the barbecue guy?" Because I'm a little chubby, maybe. I don't know.
no, because
No, James, I don't know who the fuck you are.
Where's the guy that you had? The guy that did the drinks and he would like rank.
That's called the bartender.
Cruise.
You know what, guys? I
Tom
fucking
Cruise.
literally have no idea what you're talking about because I over here am like tech wizard, fucking trying to get my mic working.
You got it. You sound great. You sound awesome. You sound incredible.
Thank
It's nice to see you. Alex
Nice to
Scooby.
see you.
He's the host of one of the hosts of Zen as Fuck, the podcast, and Sleeping with Scooby. Is that correct? Are you doing
That is
Sleeping with Scooby?
Sleep with Alex Scooby.
Sleep with Alex Scooby. Can you explain that one to me, please, before we get started?
So for a long time, I'll call, I'll call my credit card company and be like, "Hey, I just need to check my balance. Like, what's going on?" And the woman on the other end will, 90% of the time goes, "Oh my god, like your voice, like you could do like."
You have a great voice.
So, and this happens all the time. And I do voiceovers anyway. So my wife and her sister came out to Austin. They were hanging out, and her sister goes, "Why doesn't Alex do like sleep stuff, like like a sleep app or something, right?"
Yeah.
And but I said, "Yeah, that sounds fun, but I don't want to just do some ridiculous sleep app. I have to put a twist on it, right?" So I read the most mundane, ridiculous shit in a lower tone to get that person to sleep with some Zen music behind my voice.
Yeah, you do.
And I just lay them down and I let them suck on this voice. That's what I do. So that's good.
Well, what do you do? Do you read something? Do you just talk? Like,
you should talk to Jeff Woods. And do some shit
because
over
we
there.
got a guy that does it. I don't know if you guys know this. OnlyFans is the place for you.
What
It
is
is.
that?
OnlyFans? You don't know what OnlyFans is?
No, I mean, I think I've heard of it. I don't know too much what it is, though.
Are you kidding? It's like the world's greatest on-demand porn site. You don't know what it is?
It
Oh
is
my
not
God,
the world's
I have
greatest.
no idea. I got to
anything,
get on
Dean.
there. What?
Alex, hang on a second. I don't
What?
want to jump in. I'm not just hang on. OnlyFans is not great anything. However, I'm blown away that I've heard of people selling their toenail clippings and they're millionaires now.
What?
But other than, that's the one I was telling you about, where it's like you get, like, I could go on OnlyFans right now and like show my nipple and charge you $13 a month. Yeah.
What the
It's a
Seriously?
thing.
Seriously,
get
and
it.
we've got a guy that we work with. His name's Jeff Woods, and he does this thing called Bedtime Stories. So he writes these like erotic tales.
Really?
Yeah. And
Does he
and
have
he's
good
got
pipes?
a voice
Does he have
like
good
you,
pipes?
incredible
Yeah.
fucking
I bet,
pipes,
yeah.
And it's like he's like same thing with the music where you get the music on, and he's like that's when
Cat
she
litter.
came down the stairs
Yeah.
and asked me why are you passed out drunk again, and I just stood up and showed it to her, and she came over and she did her thing to it, and it's like, I can't even do it like he does it, but you
I
have
don't
the
want
voice.
you to do it. I don't.
His
want
voice
you
is
to
so
do it.
creaky. Jeff's
Like,
voice
Dean,
is
I
so
don't want to
creaky.
hear it.
His voice is so creaky. You
I
can like
feel
take
like-
a nap in between the pops of his creaks. You know what I
I
mean?
feel
It's
like Dean would read an erotic story and then tell you the news right after. Like he would just segue right into the news after.
I
he
can't
wrote
see
an
that's the
erotic
thing.
story once. Remember?
Yeah,
Dean?
we did. We had a contest. We were like writing these bedtime stories, like sleeping with Alex Scooby.
Yeah.
Sleeping with Alex Scooby.
Sleep
was the
with
same thing.
Alex Scooby. He's telling. I'm
Sleep
telling
with
them
Alex.
to. Sleep
Okay.
With Alex Scooby. Yeah,
But we didn't have like the challenge was we couldn't just like read out of the thesaurus or like read a fucking instruction manual.
yeah.
The
Well,
challenge
here's-
for us was we had to like literally write porn, and I couldn't fucking do it. Like
No,
I couldn't.
You wanted to write porn. You didn't have to write fucking porn.
No,
did.
I couldn't
We had
do
to.
it. Like I sat down. James did
I'm
one
under pressure.
that was like James did one that was like really porny, and then we had another guy do was really porny. And mine started out with "There she was," right after we just
Walking down
killed
the
2 buckets of wings, lying on my futon.
And my problem was I had to email Jeff and be like, I can't come up with any synonyms for cock. I said the word so many fucking times. I don't know what I'm supposed
Is
to be
there?
doing now.
How many synonyms are there
It's
for
like-
cock?
There's barely 3 or 4. Like just things you got to use in the right way because you could alabaster, mahogany can work. I don't fucking know, but
Yeah.
there's like
My
it depends on the
thumbstick,
context.
my veiny fucking rod meter. You know what I mean? Something I don't know. Look, I don't do that. I literally pick a word. Like the next episode coming out is all about chicken pox, so that's how it works. And I literally look at what chicken pox is, and I kind of, in my own way, describe all the the
Can't
things
you
that
throw
happen
it
to your
up?
body.
You
And-
could
but
go onto
it's-
YouTube and throw it up.
Yeah, there's a throw on you, but chicken pox isn't out yet. But I think the next one I'm going to do is like probably cat litter. But with the music behind it and the way I just kind of roll
Deliver it,
with my
yeah.
golden throat.
Cat litter got my car unstuck once when I was like 20.
This is what I'm seeing. His car got unstuck by cat litter. This is how important it is.
Tire kept rolling, put some cat litter on the back 2 tires, off
That's
I went.
right.
It was great.
That's right. Get you right out of that ditch.
Yeah, but dude, you could like what I'm saying is that sleep is such a premium for people. Like, do you guys struggle with sleep? Anybody here struggle with sleep?
Oh yeah, I do.
Yeah?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You struggle with sleep. You struggle with sleep. You struggle with sleep. I don't sleep in 8 hours a night. No problem.
Wow.
Well,
fuck
way
you.
to brag about it. Ooh,
That's
look
your
at me,
welcome.
everybody. I sleep 8 hours a night.
That's right. But what do you use to get to sleep? Anybody? Because with me, it's like I listen to a podcast or like some meditation, and then I might have some green, as you know, a nice indica,
Yeah.
and then I'll take 2 melatonin. But like I know for a lot of people, they've got like these crazy fucking routines. Like I've got a buddy of mine. He's like, I got to have a bath before I go to bed. I'm like, that's wrong because you're laying in a pool of your own fucking filth. Number 1. Number 2, he's like, then I got to listen to some Anya, and then I gotta go smoke a bowl, and then I gotta wash my feet. Like he's
You're
got
gonna listen
this
on
fucking
you. You gotta
I
smoke that bowl
spray-
first because
I
that's
spray I spray like a lavender spray now.
That's
I'm
not
right into
true,
that.
Wayne.
It
What do you
is
mean
so
you spray
true.
lavender? What do
Like
you
it's
mean?
like this little from this store called Saji or Sage or Sage,
Misogyny?
whatever. Yeah,
Misogyny.
and it's like it's in a look at my spray bottle. This is my impression. This is in a spray bottle, and it's
got a spray bottle,
it's like my lavender spray with eucalyptus, and it helps me breathe, and it gets into my pores. And I don't know, I feel like I sleep better. I'm also very stoned usually when I go to sleep. But yeah, that's that. And then I watch some 90 Day Fiance, and oh my God, I am a 48-year-old single woman. I do all of those things.
You know what
I
you
do
should
all of
try,
those.
honey? You should try putting the satchel bag of lavender under the pillow instead.
Yeah.
It'd be
I'm gonna
great.
start crocheting right before bed. Crocheting a big
You-
bag. Hey,
Do you really do all that
Crochet
stuff? Like the
is
only
like a
thing that
bitch.
you, the only thing that you do that doesn't sound like it's something a single 50-year-old cat lady does prior to before bed is the dope. That's pretty much it.
I
Like
bet
everything
they
you
do the
just
dope.
maybe, but everything you just described is like crazy. Like the spraying of the lavender. Do you spray it on your pillow? Do you spray it in your room? Do you spray it on
all
yourself?
over my fabrics. It's a fabric spray.
Guys, I literally get into bed.
That's what you
and
do.
You don't sleep,
That's what I do.
you
I
have
get in the
sleep problems. I
do.
You're up at 4 a.m.
I don't know why. I'm like, I should be a farmer. I have no idea
you just
why.
get into bed. You don't spray anything to help
I spray
settle
something.
you in.
I spray something before
come
bed
on.
every single night. No, I was surprised that you guys didn't say that too.
What?
I masturbate before bed. It puts me to sleep.
God's sleeping
Oh,
pill.
you're a roper.
Yeah, roper.
Sure. More like a
Nice
piper.
This is such a nice conversation.
We were talking about like how you get to sleep, and that is I call roping, as my friend
Thank
Alex
you.
puts
Thank
it.
you.
You're welcome. It's Alex's saying, not mine. I call roping God's sleeping pill.
God's sleeping something. You know what
Why
I
are
mean?
you roping?
Why
I
roping?
don't do that. Well, I'm married, so
But why is it called roping?
well,
He doesn't
because
have a
it-
reason.
like a
he
piece
doesn't
of
have a
because
reason.
when you shoot
Because
it, it's
one-
just like a fucking
No,
rope,
because
like,
one day he came up with the
It's like a
word, and that's what Alex does. He just magic, and then he sticks with it for life. He'll call something, you'd be like, "That's rabbit," and he doesn't even know what he's talking about. He saw a rabbit at some point in his day, and then for the rest of his life, that's
so
rabbit.
rabid, yo.
Yeah, he just
Amazing.
Alex
That's
goes
awesome.
off
I
into
like
these
that.
like he's like cappuccino, Caesar salad, and he that's just the saying he
Hey,
has
that's why our
now.
podcast works, dude.
The other day on our podcast,
That
I
is so
said
cat
something-
litter, yo.
Yeah,
we were talking about something. I said something on the podcast. You're like, that's why you could scrape your balls on the sidewalk with technology. I'm like, that's not a thing, Alex.
Technology is supposed to help you stop scraping your balls against the concrete.
That's not a thing.
What does that mean? What does that even mean? You
He
scrape
doesn't
your balls
know.
with
He doesn't
technology?
It
know
just
what's
means
going
that it's
on. It's happening.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, is
I
it? Is
speak
that what
the
that
language
means?
of Alex, I think. I understand him. I
Yeah.
understand where you're coming from, Alex.
You
Don't let
know,
these guys
he's-
bother you.
Look, if your balls can scrape on the concrete, you're
Balls
doing
should
pretty
be here any
good.
minute.
You're doing pretty good.
Yeah, that is true. Well, yeah, it is. You're also a freak if your
You're also
balls
96.
concrete.
Yeah.
You know what I noticed in that little exchange? How you absolutely went after Wayne, your podcast partner, by rubbing it in that you're happily married. Did you hear that, Wayne?
Did it
Did you
again.
hear that?
I don't.
Well,
I don't
dude, we're
hear
talking
that
about
stuff.
roping. We're talking about roping, and he's like, "Well, tell Wayne I'm married," and he's not, and he's also.
I don't know that I said all that.
existence. Sort
I
of.
was
Wayne-
just actually saying I'm not masturbating because I'm married. I mean, like, I'm not going to lay next to my wife and be
Oh.
like, I think I'm going to go to bed.
That's really because
I'm
that's
not-
why I'm masturbating.
I'm not
That's why-
masturbating.
Well,
I'm
exact
not.
reason.
I'm not masturbating because I'm on antidepressants, and it really screws with your.
Oh, that explains the shirt.
your
Wait a
stuff.
second. Hold on a second.
This is
Wait.
not a shirt for one. This
Oh,
is
is it a
full
blanket? Is it a snuggie?
fucking tracksuit,
No,
dude.
it's a tracksuit.
Oh,
So
shit,
listen-
really?
So
Jesus
listen, hey
Christ.
Wayne. First of all, antidepressants, the ones you're on, are they taking away your sex drive?
No, at first they did for a bit. At first they really kind of, and when I went on them, the doctor had kind of warned me about some of the things that were going to happen, and one of them was the sex drive thing. But I don't know. I didn't really find that it did. The only thing it messed with was my appetite for about a month, and now I'm just getting back to eating normally and stuff like that. But I don't have anxiety anymore, so that's a thing.
You know what's awesome, man? When I was doing Prozac, when I first started it, I couldn't have an orgasm. I couldn't. It was horrible. Like, it was fucking like that lasted for like 4 months where I literally could not have an orgasm, and it was just devastating, like really frustrating. You know,
What with antidepressants? You can't.
I got through it. I mean, I came out on literally the other. I got through it, but for the first 4 months, it was bad.
Was it really?
Uh-huh.
Do they do? Because here's the thing. I was on them when I quit drinking. I was on them for like 2 years. Haven't been on them for a couple years. I was with someone I didn't really enjoy being with, so I never really got to test that experience. I never really got to figure out. I wonder if this might go very. But was it a concern for you when that happened to you, Alex? Or were you like,
Oh, yeah.
God, I might get boners in it?
Oh yeah, no, but it wasn't even that. Is I was getting hard. I just couldn't have an orgasm. So I could get aroused, so to speak, and have sex, but it just, do you ever feel that right when you're about to? Do you ever get like when you're drunk, like say when you were drinking, like you have sex when you're drunk and you feel like you're going to, but you can't? It's kind of like that. That's how I was feeling, but sober. So it was frustrating.
Oh,
as
that's
fuck.
the worst. Because when you're drunk, you're like, I get it, I'm drunk. But then you're sober and you're like, well, now what do I do? Because I get the terrible fallout of being drunk without actually being drunk.
Yeah,
You know what the thing is
horrible.
too, though, and like to sort of get to the serious place is when we talk about the stigma behind like SSRIs and SNRIs or antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication or even ADHD stuff. I'm on that too, but it's funny when I talk to a lot of my friends that are dealing with PTSD or anxiety stuff. Everybody's concerned about all of these side effects that they're not even willing to try it, even though a lot of those side effects are temporary. And it's kind of, if I think that kind of plays along with the stigma behind, medication to help with those things. So yeah.
I think some people their chemistry is such where, like, I was on SSRIs, I think for 8 months, maybe 6 years ago or something. And I was like, I wasn't physically violent, but I would respond to people in a way where they were like, okay, dude, I'm sorry. I just wanted to know if you could pass me that fucking sugar over there. Like, and I was just like, so I had to get off them. I'm just on Adderall now. And that's
so that's the reason why. And the reason why is Adderall, because Adderall is for ADHD, right, as a stimulant. And when people with ADHD are misdiagnosed and they're misdiagnosed with depression or anxiety, they're often put on an SS or an SNRI to kind of help with the anxiety and depression. But if you don't need it, if it's the dopamine that you're dealing with and it's the ADHD piece that you're dealing with, and you don't need that antidepressant, it will do the opposite. And it will make you, because already if you're not medicated ADHD, there's already a lot of anxiety and lows associated with it, right? So, and I've met people throughout, the stuff that I'm doing with mental health and that, and the stigma side of what I do. I've met people that were diagnosed bipolar and repeatedly hospitalized because of suicide attempts. And then they were taken off the antipsychotic and put on ADHD meds, and they're absolutely normal and they're not diagnosed bipolar anymore.
Seriously?
Yeah,
man.
Like the psychiatrist that I had one time, like 8 years ago, told me, he's like, I think you might be bipolar. You ever considered that? And I'm like, where did that come from? That was like left field shit. Because if you look at, like, I did the whole 4-hour thing with him where you just like, where he diagnoses you and he's like, you're like a poster child for ADHD. Like, I'm surprised that no one's told you this before. You're like 37, I was at the time or something. He's like, tell me what it was like for you in elementary school. And when I told him, he's like, Jesus Christ, how come no one did anything? And so, and then like, then to come out with bipolar, because I quit drinking and the anxiety came for me in like, it was like having my virginity taken away from me in the mental health arena. Cause I was like, this is anxiety. Holy shit. Like, it's crazy. I drank so much for so long that I just never really felt it. I always had a nervous stomach, but I never felt like the full weight of anxiety. Until
it can be crushing, man. It can be crushing. Like I had it. I had like acute anxiety when I was like 16, and I'll never forget the first fucking time I felt it. I borrowed my mother's car and I was driving down the street in Jersey, and I went to a stop sign, and all of a sudden I'm at the stop sign, and all of a sudden it was like my heart started beating quick, and I started like getting sweaty, and I felt like if I could verbalize the feeling, it's like the world was kind of crushing down on me, and I could like almost like being in a swimming pool, and like there's a lid on top that you could see through, but you can't move the lid, and you're stuck. It's fucking crazy, man. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you know what age that was? Do you know how old
16.
you were?
I was
16
when I first got
Do you know what happened before that? Exactly. What about you, Wayne? Do you know, like, because listen, this is like a really cool conversation that we're curating here a little bit, because it's four guys talking about, getting to a point where you experienced anxiety and you're on medication and you're trying to get it right. And there aren't many people that do. There aren't many podcasts. That's why I wanted to have you guys on. There aren't many podcasts where, you've got two grown-ass men, both very successful in their own right. You got Wayne, who's a firefighter and a veteran for the Canadian Forces. You got Alex, who's an accomplished actor, and he's been in Hollywood. He's got a happy life, and you're talking about a radio guy that had lots of money, and you got another guy who's really bright, and he was a journalist. But it came for all of us at some point, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it came for all of us.
But I really feel like anxiety is there's triggers, right? But we don't know what those triggers are most of the time. Like, who knows? Like, I could be walking down the street and I see I don't know, like a lawn that's not cut the way I want it to be cut. And for some reason, my brain is like, oh yeah, it's like, it feels like fight or flight, right? So it's like, that's the feeling for no reason. Like there's no reason to feel that way. So
Dude, I would drive by my neighbor's house, and they were not hoarders, but they had shit all over the place. And it used to, I'd drive by the house and look at it, and I'd go, I fucking hate you people. And I didn't know why. Like, I was like, I want to go and fucking, I don't even want to clean it up for them. I want to burn it.
Yeah. When I was
it's like, and it would make me angry for like days. I couldn't fucking let it go. My neighbor's yard literally set me off for like 4 days once. And I was like, there's something fucking wrong with me.
Yeah. Fuck, dude.
Sorry, Wayner, what were you saying?
No, you had asked about when I kind of knew I had anxiety. It was weird because I was diagnosed as a kid with ADHD. So I was medicated until I was 17 years old. I wanted to join the army, and you had to be off any stimulant for a year. So I came off ADHD meds. And back in the 90s, they would always say, you grew out of it. And we as adults with ADHD can tell you with quite certainty that you grow into it. You don't grow out of it. And when you look at the brain between an adolescent and an adult, like if you were to break the brain in half, you'd have a thinking side and a feeling side. Well, we feel things as kids more than we think, but as we get into adulthood and we start adulting, we start thinking more than we're feeling. We start thinking our emotions instead of feeling our emotions, right? Because we're taught to suck it up and keep it to ourselves, and we're wondering why we're blowing up at our neighbor's lawn, or we're wondering why we're freaking out, over the state of another human being. It's because we've kept everything inside. It was Alex that actually told me this once, and he's been a huge part of this last part of my mental health journey. But Alex told me once, he says, you got to he feels better when he just lets it out, like when he says what's wrong and what the fuck is bothering him. And I started doing that a while ago, and it's changed my life. But I thought, it was funny when I went back on ADHD meds last January, I thought my anxiety and depression was gone. And then I got into I would still have anxiety around relationships really bad, like to the point of panic attacks. And it was, I know why they happen now, but when I went on anxiety medication as well, fuck me. Because I never knew, like you said, anxiety just feels like it has that feeling to it. I've never not known that feeling. I've had that feeling my entire life. So when it went away and I stopped freaking out about spilling coffee, I was like, oh, this is what everybody's talking about. This whole like, oh, you don't need to freak out every 20 minutes, because I would get so fucking pissed off. I'd be walking downtown somewhere and you'd see this super happy couple with their matching jackets and their matching Blundstones and blah, look at us, we're all happy. And I was like, you're fucking fake. I never said it out loud, but I would think that they were. And then I took away my anxiety and my depression. I was like, oh no, I get it now. Okay, you can be really happy all the time and piss people off.
Yeah. It's wild, man. So when you were just talking about you never felt any other way, like you were always stuck in that, mine was different, where I would have these extreme vaults of anxiety where I'd be just out of my mind. Like there was a point when I was about 18 years old where I wouldn't leave my house because I thought that if I left my house, I'd have a heart attack. I'm not even fucking joking. That's how crazed I got into this.
Were you a fat kid?
I wasn't, man. I've been skinny. I was like 160 pounds at 6'5". I mean, I was really skinny, but I think that my brain had latched on to that people have heart attacks.
Yeah.
At any, they can. And somehow my brain just took hold of that and went, well, don't step outside because that's where heart attacks happen.
Was that like an OCD thing?
Ridiculous. I mean,
was that like an OCD thing? Like, did a medical professional ever did you ever tell someone that?
I've been seeing shrinks my whole life. I haven't for the last couple of years, but I had been. And they would tell me that all they would really say to me is that you think way too much.
Yeah.
Like my mind is just always thinking, and it's calmed down a lot as I've gotten older. I'm 48 now, and it's like it's definitely calmed down. But I mean, there was a time period where I was just fucking.
But when they say anxiety, they always say that anxiety is when we think too far forward, and depression is when we think too far in the past, right?
Well, there's fucking legitimacy to that.
Yeah,
right?
man. And I found like my big push is for us to learn how to live in the moment. I've always been short, like when So
Same.
that was normal to me, like freaking out like about the littlest things. That was just my normal. And when I remember I was about 3 weeks into this Zoloft, and I was building my shed.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and if I was to build a shed pre Zoloft, I would have probably burnt my entire house down in the process and gone ballistic, because I can't I can't hold my emotions when I'm building things. I'm that guy that freaks out when he's building the play set, for his kid. But I didn't this time, and I finished building my shed, and I was like, that was really enjoyable. So it was like, I didn't know a non-normal, like it was normal for me to freak out all the time.
I still freak out all the time. I really
Do
do.
you?
Well,
Yeah,
kind of.
maybe you
I'm
need
not trying to make light of it or anything, but like, I think I'm listening to both you, Alex and Wayne, speak about this, and I've heard Dean and I have talked about a bunch of stuff. And it's first thing, I agree with the viewers that are commenting that, like, it is nice to hear four guys kind of talk about stuff like this. I was never the type of person to share anything when it comes to this kind of stuff. And now I feel like when you were talking, Wayne, about building something, I've noticed that since I stopped drinking and I can feel all of this anxiety all the time. I'm not sure, by the way, if the Adderall helps or hinders that, to be perfectly honest. But
How about
anyways,
the Coke?
I don't do Coke anymore
Sorry.
because I don't drink anymore. Right. But what I was thinking is that I certainly need to be doing something all the time, because as soon as I sit down, I'm not doing anything, I start thinking. And if I start thinking for more than 10 minutes, I'm going to be like you were, Alex, not wanting to leave the house, but it will manifest in a way that I will work myself up from nothing. Literally nothing.
I want to tell you
happen,
something, man.
right?
I got it. And then let me say something about
okay,
ADHD.
Hold on a second.
Yeah.
I just want
Hold on. Alex is talking. Hold on, everybody.
I was going to talk first, and then here we
Scooby.
fucking go, Wayne. So
No,
anyway,
Alex, breathe.
So here's the thing. So what happened? What helped me dramatically with that? And I believe me, I'm a spinner too, and I always like to be doing something, whether it's creating or I have to play my guitar. I have to create content. I have to do something, because if I don't, So what I started doing about 7 months ago is meditating. Right now, I know that some people are like, I'm not gonna fucking do that and just sit there and cross my legs and be like a fucking, I'm telling you right now, the first few times you do it,
I didn't know gay guys were so against it, but go ahead.
The first few times you do it, it can be very daunting, and it could feel like you're just like, this is ridiculous. But I'm telling you, once you get into that pocket where you kind of start knowing what you're doing and how it can feel, when you get there, I'm telling you, man, it is like life-changing, because when you come out of it, Emily, that is Zen as fuck. Thank you for saying that. When you come out of it, you see things clearer, because what we are learning when we are meditating is that all we are is awareness. That's all we are. That's all we are. At the base of everything, we are just awareness. Everything else around us is just stuff. But inside of us and our true selves, right? Our true selves. Some people call it the soul. Some people, say like it's God and it's God's in me, or whatever they want to say. But what I say and what other people say is your true self is just awareness. That's all. And it helped me drastically. That's all. That's all I wanted.
No, I love it. I think you're
great.
absolutely right. Wayne, you wanted to follow up before Alex totally stole everything you were going to say.
I was going to say
what?
first.
And the cool thing about Alex is that, I'm the interrupter, because it should have been said, Alex should have said this, then I'm going to say what I have to say. No, because it all ties in. I think with ADHD, and it's really important that you know this, every medical professional has a view on it. And really what it comes down to is we either don't create the dopamine that we need, or we don't have the norepinephrine, and add some trauma to it, some anxiety to it, and it just makes it worse. But when the thing about me is, when I went on to this medication, the first medicine that my doctor wanted to put me on was Adderall. And Adderall, because it's an amphetamine and it's a stimulant and it gives you a shit ton of dopamine, a lot of people think, and this is, I'm not a medical professional, this is my personal experience, but what they do is they try to force more dopamine into you. Some people with ADHD have the perfect amount of dopamine. They just have no ability to attach to it with that norepinephrine stuff. That's my scientific term. So they put me on a drug called Concerta, which is methylphenidate. It's like Ritalin for adults.
Jesus Christ, you sound like a fucking researcher, dude.
No, I'm not a
got
researcher,
all the
dude.
names.
But the
He's
thing
got him in
is
front of him on his tablet.
I've tried that before.
I've tattooed them on my leg. But when so when I went on Concerta, it kind of took the anxiety away, and then it brought it back tenfold. And that's why I went on an antidepressant too, or an anti-anxiety as well. So I would say to you, man, like I would go experiment with ADHD medicine with your doctor and find something that takes, because you don't need to have that spin. It does not need to be there anymore, you know, and
plus there was it comes with a warning label, things like Adderall, in the form of, it feels like a recreational drug the first couple times that you do it, right? Like, I'm like, holy shit, I have this sudden urge to masturbate again. Like, this is a great drug.
I'm all about medication, but I'm not about medication without, like, I say, in order to thrive and function with mental health, we need to medicate. Yes, this is no order, people. We need to medicate. We need to move our bodies. We need to meditate. And we need to put decent things in our bodies nutritional wise. And I don't do that last one at all. Like, I'm really shitty with that. Fuck, I need to eat better. But you need to meditate, man, and you need to breathe, because that's the shit that centers you and aligns you.
Yeah, so he just brought up breathing. So one of the best things that I've ever done for myself is to observe my breath. So when you sit in a chair, right, with your feet on the ground and your hands, in the palm of your lap open, and you use the backrest, and you just observe your breath. You don't manipulate it. You don't. Do you know how hard
that is, dude? Do you know how hard that is? Because you start out like this, you're like, and you're breathing. And you go 4 out and 4 in, and you got to wait, and then you're doing it, and you're like, "Am I consciously breathing?" Do you ever do that where you're meditating? Am I forcing this or not? And then you go, "Why am I forcing this? Do I not know how to meditate?" And all of a sudden, you're like,
"Why can't I shut
meditation?"
the fuck
up?
But that's the way it is. But that's how it starts. Like I would say the first 2 months, and I was doing it every day. But then something happened where, like, a little switch got turned off, not on, but off in my brain. And I just kind of let it be. And I'm saying right now, man, it is just a gift. It's a gift. I want to bring up that Adderall stuff again, that you guys were talking about, because people use Adderall that don't have ADHD for speed, right? It's a party drug. That's been going on forever, which is kind of wild to me, because if you have ADHD and you're put on Adderall, that's to normalize you, right?
Yeah, it gives you dopamine, right? It adds to the dopamine. So,
well, I can't feel it anymore. Like, I've only been on it for like 7 months.
Yeah, but wouldn't you be like, to Alex's point, wouldn't you be like mega jacked up if you can't focus and you're all over the place?
If you don't need Adderall, even for some people with ADHD, like, there's inattentive and attentive, but if you don't need Adderall, it'll act like speed because it's giving you too much dopamine. For me, holy shit.
Yeah, I had friends that use it like that. They just use it.
Yeah,
we're gonna go to
I know executives that use it.
Executives
that use it, and lawyers that use it. You know,
bet.
So let me ask you guys a question, because, like, listen, Zen as Fuck is the podcast. You can get it at DeanBlundell.com. You can get it at Spotify, iTunes, etc. Bean versus Ween. It's a cool little brand you do. You guys do a lot of different stuff, but I want to talk about this part because you guys have fun. You tell jokes. You're a comedian. You're an actor. But you take you take mental health very, very seriously, as you should, because there's a responsibility I think we all bear when we go through some shitty times to be able to share some good news, light at the end of the tunnel with people. But what place, like, we're actually literally talking about a bunch of things, but we're doing it through this process called being mindful. Mindfulness, recognizing that you need to stop your brain from thinking, recognizing, and that's what meditation does for me. I do it every day. It's 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes I do it before I go to bed because I want to have a good mindset when I wake up. and the way that I use it is, I think the way that a lot of people use it, which is like, listen, I get into these negative thought cycles, and depending on your chemical level, that negative thought cycle, like in Wayne's case, can last for a lifetime, right? Like it's just baseline, knowing that you feel agitated, you feel stressed, almost like, and I could be wrong here, but as someone who's experienced anxiety, depression, PTSD, all the great stuff, you live waking up worried that something's going to happen, going to bed worried that something's going to happen, completely ignoring all the beautiful things in our lives, no matter what they are. All the gratefulness for what we have, because all we're thinking about is what might happen and what we don't have that other people look like they do have. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. If you spend more time being grateful for what you do have, right, and less time worrying about what you don't, more great things will come to you. That is a fact. It's kind of just science. It's even scientific in a way that good energy breeds good energy. Bad energy does the same in reverse. So if you spend more time being grateful for your house and grateful for your car and grateful for your life and grateful for your breakfast and your fucking whatever the fuck you're grateful for, more of that will come. If you do the opposite, you're kind of just screwing yourself.
Yeah, but is it magic? Or because I was having this conversation the other day, it's like that act of gratefulness that people, because it saved my life. Gratefulness, like a bunch of different things saved my life, but being grateful, truly grateful for what I have, takes me so far away from the anxiety of what I don't, that it's almost like it's a fucking miracle, to be honest with you. Like, I look at my life in terms of all these great things, all these wonderful things. I've never had less. I look at the things that happen around me, whereas, before I would go, this happened, oh, that's just another thing. Oh, I've dropped a bag of rice. Time to throw my fist through the wall. Oh, it's, like all these things that you just think that pile up and pile and pile. Now when those things happen, because I have an attitude of gratefulness, not a big deal. That doesn't bother me.
You also give yourself grace, though. The big thing about grace, and I think when we were talking the other night, Dean, we kind of shot the shit out, about ego and how we let our ego lead a lot of things. And the one thing that I learned when I decided to, so quick backstory, and Wayne feeling sorry.
It's going to be about your tracksuit collection again, because if it is, I'm out.
Or he's going to tell you he's adopted.
No, I'm not even going to bring up the adoption thing, Alex. I'm not even going to bring that.
Wait, what the fuck's up with the adoption thing? What are you talking about?
No, we're not getting into it.
We're not doing it.
You don't want to get into it. Don't fucking say adoption.
Hey, guys.
No, I'm adopted. And see, that's what happened.
No, so tell your story that you're going to go.
Yeah, go ahead.
So when I kind of hit my rock bottom last Christmas, and I remember just going, enough is enough, and I need to make this switch, because I had been going to therapy for 5 years, like straight for 5 years, weekly, through my veterans benefits. So I had the access, and I went 5 years religiously. And I remember saying to my therapist, I said, you know what, there's going to come a time where you will listen to me, but you won't believe me anymore, because I'm not making change. I'm getting all of these tools, but I'm not taking any active steps to changing my mindset. I'm
not incorporating them.
Right? Yeah. So, when Christmas happened, and then I started, researching ADHD and my mental health behind that, and my PTSD from my military days, and the anxiety thing, when I started on medication and it was able to kind of calm me down, the one thing I saw from that was, I started giving myself grace. I started being accepting that I am not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. I am always going to be partly cloudy with a chance of rain. But instead of me, you talk about, we get into these rabbit holes of negativity and we stay there for a long time. Now, when I have bouts of anxiety, or I get smoked with a little bit of depression, or I can't focus and I'm just lethargic because my ADHD is on fire, I now give myself grace, and I accept the ADHD paralysis, and I'll sit there for a day. I'll do nothing for a day. And then the next day I'll conquer the world, because I gave myself grace and I understood that I'm not always going to be, you know, an 8 or a 10. If the people that love you and the people that surround you can give you grace, the one thing you can do is give yourself grace, because self-love breeds love. It doesn't matter, just like Alex says with manifestation, if you're grateful for the things that you have, those external things, more of those things will come, because you're building this legacy behind your mental or your mindset. But if you're grateful for the things inside you, like your ability, like your superpowers, or your, you know, if you find the good in you, like, and give yourself gratitude, fuck, man, you want to know how it works. And there's no, and this isn't, I'm pumping my tires. I was in a negative mindset for 23 years. I contemplated suicide. I don't know how many times. I played the victim. I don't know how many times. I destroyed every relationship. I don't know how many times. And when I changed my mindset, next thing you know, I'm, you know, reaching millions of people through a mental health message. I'm becoming a motivational speaker. I'm doing a successful podcast with my now best friend. You know, but that is mindset. When you switch from a negative to a positive mindset, I'm on the Dean Blundell show right now. I didn't know who you were 2 weeks ago, but I'm on the Dean Blundell show. No, but do you know what I mean? But listen, you and I talk outside.
It brings people together,
and yeah, man. So
I feel like I can't relate to you guys yet, and I'm being serious, because I haven't done the work, I guess you would say, yet. I'm also like, I like learning from listening to perspectives and experiences from other people. It does help. Dean, actually, you've been very helpful in the last couple of weeks. Like, you know, putting me onto like concepts like, you know, other people can't determine how you feel about your self-worth and things like that. The thing is, I know it's true, and it's not like I don't think that I should believe it or I don't believe it. It's just, I don't know how to believe it.
There's no time. There's no time to healing, and there's no time to change. And the important thing that you need to know is that this is it's your process, and your process might take 20 years, but the simple fact that A, you're accountable for the way you are, B, you're open to hearing other people talk about it, and C, you're willing to sit there and go, you know what, I haven't done the work yet. That means that you're doing the work. Growth might not look like you wake up one day and you're now fucking Oprah Winfrey and you're the happiest woman on the planet. That's
going to happen. I don't want it to work.
I don't want to be Oprah
hate that
Winfrey.
But it's working right now, man. It's working right now. And you know what? Every one of you would want to be Oprah Winfrey. I don't even care what you say.
I want to be Oprah Winfrey. I would be me, but maybe I would. Depends. I mean, but here's the thing: like we talk about different ways to get help, because that's what you guys talk about, entertain people, and you have fun. We talk about different ways to get help. One of the most like I it's and Seneca said it in his letters. He's an ancient philosopher, big in Stoicism. He's one of the grandfathers of Stoicism. I love the saying, like, we suffer more in imagination than reality. You know,
it's so fucking true. It's so fucking true.
And every time I get worked up, I say that to myself, which is like auditing. Dude, you suffer more in imagination than reality. And here's the other thing. You spent 23 years being upset, philosophy too. And how philosophy explains that is through the process of saying, you know, you'd be so pissed off if someone took your shit. Really give people our minds when we negatively worry about things that we can't control. And really the chief life, and this is the life-changing part for me, and I love sharing it with people, and I know everybody gets healthy different ways, but the chief job is legitimately, if you boil it down, is managing response in an unmanageable world through knowing what you control and what you don't. The only thing you control, the only thing we control as people, as men, as women who struggle with anxiety, is getting the tools to be able to get on top of those things. And the only way you do it isn't through 5 months of therapy. It's not through, medication. It's through truly investing your time in things that make you a happier person. Your soul is dyed with the color of your thoughts, guys. It is. And we know that. And when you're in that negative thought process, you're suicidal. You're pissed off. You're angry. You don't like yourself because you're duplicitous, because you know that there's a part of yourself that is scared and tired and worried, and you have absolutely no idea how you're going to get to be this person that you show everybody else. So you're walking around a fraud. Add that on top of it too, right? It is an amazing experience when you truly take advantage of the tools that are existent, that are out there, and that people like us love talking about. And that's why I love talking to you guys about this stuff, because we learn these things that are truths. They are truths that if you do the work that no one's exempt from, you can get better at understanding exactly what you're going through by leaning into that depression, by leaning into it. The other day, even this morning, I felt anxious. My hands are all sweaty, and I'm like, what's going on? And I literally had to sit there and write down why I felt the way I felt, find exactly what I journaled, I picked off, I narrowed down, and got to it. You know what was bothering me today? I've got a busy weekend coming up, and I'm trying to manage all the details. So I let that bother me for about 2 hours this morning, to the point where I was like, okay, so you just got things to do this week. Just snap out of it, dickhead.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Shouldn't call yourself a dickhead when you got that stuff either.
Well, you can. But, here's the thing. You can. So another thing that really helps me is just laughing at myself. I don't take myself seriously anymore. I don't. I used to be so serious about what the things that I loved and the things that make me happy and all this thing. Oh, and my thoughts were serious, and I was
All of a sudden he's a count,
dude. Yeah. but it's like, but that's how I felt. Like inside, that's how I felt. Like I'm an actor. Fuck that shit, dude. I don't take myself seriously anymore. And I've learned to really just laugh at myself, like on a daily, hourly, minutely basis, laugh at some of the things that go through my head. And that helps too, man.
Yeah, it's funny.
All day, you and I, back and forth, just with the shitty videos or the funny videos.
Yeah.
And we just laugh all day because even when shit's hard, man.
Yeah.
Even when shit's hard, I'm going to say something about mindset. I think we try to get from a negative mindset to a positive mindset. Yeah. We try to get from a negative place to a positive place. We forget the stuff in the middle. Instead of trying to go from a negative mindset to a positive mindset right off the bat, go to from a negative mindset to a humbling mindset. So what I mean by that is that when those bad things, those negative things, or those things that, when I promise you, when you're in a positive mindset, they won't bother you anymore. So just trust me on this. When you go from a negative mindset and you take those negative things, then you just let them humble you. So you don't get mad, you don't get happy, you don't get anything. You're just neutral. You're like Switzerland, and you treat them like this, just this humbling experience. You spill coffee all over yourself, let it humble you. Be like, fuck, all right. And then carry on. You don't have to have a reaction. And once you convince yourself that those negative things are now humbling things, now move into building a positive mindset. And then when you build that positive mindset, you won't take as many steps back when those humbling things that used to be negative things happen. And those humbling things will give you the ability to just go, yeah, man, I'm fucking human. I get it. You can take a deep breath. You've created boundaries for yourself where you know that you're gonna walk away from other people when you're like that. Let them humble you. You'll stay in a negative place less. But don't fucking bite the whole thing off, man. If you bite the whole thing off, you're gonna be pissed off about being pissed off.
Yeah. Can I ask where that tracksuit comes in when it comes to being humble?
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing.
Did DJ Khaled send that to you? Or?
I'm not talking about me. I am definitely not humble. I am a Renaissance man with the fashion sense of an icon.
He's a Renaissance man.
So the simple fact that I don't have a driver is unbeknownst to me. But
I want a limo driver one day. That's what I want.
Do, and I told
not to drive me. I like driving, but I want want him on standby.
That's why he picked me. That's why he's friends with the guy with the tan. I'm going to end up being his limo driver for optics. Yeah, I see how it is.
Hey, did you guys listen to episode 11 of Zen as Fuck podcast? The one we just did?
TV.
It should probably go viral. It's that fuck.
It should. You know what? I haven't had a chance to yet because it's been a wacky week. But tell us about it, and then we'll let you go and have more fun with
all I'm going to say about it is this: brilliant, handsome, wonderful, funny. Laugh, love, and just fucking subscribe.
Dean, can Dean play our most recent animation about France?
Bean versus Ween?
No, no. You're talking about Peen and Ween. That's
No,
Sorry,
I'm
animation.
Keen and
I'm-
Ween.
No, did you get our animation for the what's the one? It's
the
from
piece
episode
where
11.
we're talking about the
French accent.
the French accent one.
No, I didn't get it. I didn't get the French accent.
do we get it
Tyler,
to
you
you?
son of a bitch!
Well, you just
Our
send
producer
it to me.
fucked us.
I am so
Yeah, your
sick and
producer
tired.
Tyler Boyko did fuck you up. You should have sent it to me. Remember when I said, "Hey, listen, Wayne,
Dead to me.
do you remember when I said send the stuff to Chris? Yes or no?"
This is bullshit.
I remember it. I remember. Did Tyler
I have
do it?
ADHD. I have ADHD.
But I'm a public speaker about ADHD.
Hey, you mind your own business over there. You're not even healed yet.
True. He's right about that.
You're not even
Oh,
healed
Tyler,
yet,
right about
he's
that.
on here. He goes, I
Well-
guess I'll go fuck myself.
Well, yeah, also,
Here's
what am
our
I capable of if I'm not healed
I
yet?
guess I'll
right?
go fuck
Tyler's
myself.
in here.
producer.
Tyler, what the fuck? This is our
Tyler,
producer.
what the fuck
Tyler.
happened?
What
We
do
these
we?
shows.
This is. You know what? You
We're
have a
supposed to put
simple
'em up.
job. You have a simple job. We don't pay you for.
Yeah, it's a simple job that you do for free.
Yeah, you
At
offer the money.
least get it right, Tyler.
For fuck's sakes, Tyler.
Tyler's creeping
No,
in.
send it to me because I love the content you guys listen. I spent a lot of time with these guys. We converse back and forth because I think they're first class entertainers, and their podcast is going to be massive because they deal with really important shit and it's very funny. So no, I haven't. And my answer to you after blowing you up like that, my answer is I have not seen the French Peen versus Ween.
Well, that's
listen,
horrifying.
uh,
And Tyler just threatened us. He said, "Let's see if episode 12 goes up."
What a
Oh.
dick.
Stop it.
That
What an
Stop it.
Maybe,
absolute
did you guys
asshole.
ever stop and think for a second that maybe you guys are the thing that makes him humble? You know, like that.
Maybe. Hey,
it's
you know
negative
what?
experiences, right? That make people humble. Maybe you
Yeah,
guys are-
maybe we're the negative in his life, and I kind of like that.
I feel like we've taken Tyler under our wing and we're gonna make him into the.
He's
man
like our
he's gonna
son.
be
Like, if
tomorrow.
Wayne
He's
and I
like a
were
son of
married-
ours, yeah.
He's like our son.
So
He
he'd
is?
be like Alex's son. Alex would be
I
the
have a
greatest
son.
mom. Alex, you would make a great mom.
You would.
Listen,
Wayne, you're a bottom, so like, there's
I'm
no
a
way
I'd be a power bottom though.
You do fuck
So
back.
bring it.
You
I
can
would.
top from the
Yeah.
bottom. You can do that. You can bottom from
You
the top.
can do
too.
whatever you
That's
put your
insane.
mind
I don't
to.
know
That's
how
what
that- I
it's
can't
all
even
about mind.
I have a
visualize
whole
that.
list.
Visually, that's crazy to me. That scares me.
Listen, Dean, thank you so much, man. I really do appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah,
for us
man.
to-
Thanks for having us on,
guys,
dude.
appreciate it.
Seriously.
Nice to meet
And
you
come
guys.
check
I
us
guess
out.
Yeah, you
again,
too.
Wayne.
Nice to
Wayne,
meet you.
did
Zen
you
AF
meet me
does-
before for real? Like,
with the-
I don't.
No,
No,
we've
he's
never
full of
met.
shit. He was yanking your
fuck with
chain.
that.
I'm alive.
I'm
You can't fuck
shocked.
with a guy who's still healing like that, Wayne.
Yeah,
Okay?
Wayne,
No,
just you know how you guys said, you know how you said, Alex, you're like, he doesn't, take yourself seriously, which is, by the way, that's when you know you're getting healthy, when someone can just tear a strip off you as a joke and you're like, I don't care, that's funny.
Yeah.
Or someone insults you and you're like, I don't care, whatever. But just so you know, he's not at that stage yet. So careful because he might come
We have to
after
be
you.
careful. We have to be
You talking
careful
about
around
me?
him. And I will say this: our podcast is Zen AF podcast. Check it out. We're on Dean Blundell's site. We're also at zenaf.tv, like my hat says. There's other content there. I really appreciate you having us on.
I
man.
will tune in, even
Thank
though
you.
I am not even close to being Zen as fuck.
So you don't
So
have
how
to
about
be,
you?
man.
You know
don't
what?
have to,
Is-
just go.
If
Yeah.
you're a TikToker, man, and I'm here to tell you, and this is
I'm not. I'm
well,
not.
you don't need to get an account, but go on TikTok and find me, Good Morning Assholes, and listen to my daily shit because it's about guys our age doing this shit and going through this, and I'm going through the change right now. I'm not all fucking healed.
You
And
mean I'm
make
not
sure you
special?
have some Crisco if you're going to watch his stuff because he makes it nice.
Lotion and tissues.
That was a compliment. That was a
I'm
compliment.
damp like a wet nap.
Roping.
And listen, I'll let you go, but I want everybody to know, like, James, what you're saying is you're not healed. Nobody is.
No.
We're all trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And this whole process is about the process of becoming and being and enjoying yourself and getting it right between the dot of birth and the dot of death because there's this big, long line and we still got half our lives left. Maybe Scooby with a little less because he's lived harder than all of us.
Wow.
But I'm saying,
Wow.
no, I'm just saying.
Wow, that's really hard.
No, if
you
anybody here is
wow.
dying young, it's either me or James. You guys
No,
are good.
I'll be going. Don't worry. I won't be around long, guys.
Yeah.
I'm
And
short.
that's the other
Short
thing.
guys tend to live forever. It's you tall fucks that go early.
That's the other thing. When you get happy with your life, you start embracing the idea of death. You're like,
I
it's
can't.
coming.
I
for
don't
everybody.
want to.
Yeah, I'm not
I don't
afraid of
want to
death.
go.
I'm
I'm
really
not.
not.
I'm
You're
good.
not there yet.
I'm not ready to die
76.
yet.
I want to be 76 and then
You don't get to choose. That's the best
I don't
part.
want to die, but I'm just not afraid of it. I get
Stoked.
it. Like I have.
I'm stoked to see what's next.
Tough.
There's nothing worm food. is
big,
that
tough,
anyway.
6'5", not afraid of death guy. All right, Tiger. All right, Tiger tracksuit. You fucking. Before we start becoming
I love
abusive
you,
to
Alex.
each other, we got to
I love
go.
you, Alex.
Okay, you
Alex,
guys
I
get
love
out of
you.
here.
I love you guys.
Wayne Hanna, Alex Scooby, Zen AF TV, Zen AF TV, Zen as fuck. Their podcast at on Twitter, Zen_AF is where you can get them. Listen, these guys are great. Appreciate you being here, fellas.
Yeah,
Stay humble,
thank you, man.
fuckers. Have a good one.
All right, you
Hi,
too.
guys.
There you go.
See you later.
There's
Bye,
Wayne. There's Alex. Nice guys, though. I love those
Yeah.
guys.
I like their I like the way they vibe. They're like, the guys you grew up with, and also they have smart things to say. That's good.
It's you know what? It's time that like people start talking about things that they're learning if they've helped each other. And because there's a lot of people out there that are like, hey, you got the same thing? I got the same thing. You're dealing with this? I'm dealing with it. What are you doing? I'm doing this. So it's comparing notes about how to be healthy, right? And if you can get a guy that's got 20 plus years in Hollywood and another guy who's a world-class comedian to get together and do it, it's even more important because it's entertaining. It'll hold your interest and it's good stuff. So
Yeah, I got to tell you, it's not fun yet for me to share. Like I'm still sort of like, but I will share one thing with you. I had an appointment with my therapist this morning who just happens to be like super hot. She's like tall, long red hair, and she wears like tight clothing and stuff. And I was like, and she's a marriage counselor with me and my wife, right? So we both go there.
she hotter than your wife.
Yeah, and then this is not a story about how I was just trying to paint a picture because this morning, and I treated her with respect and whatever, but this morning my therapy appointment was in Pembroke and the power went off in the building. So our therapy
Got
session,
romantic.
our therapy session was covering intimacy issues. We're sitting in this really dark office, and I'm just like, yeah. So she's like, so, how's your sex life going? And I'm like, can you not whisper? Because it's really dark.
I'm getting a boner.
No, not even like that. It was more like, it was just bizarre. It was like, is this a reality show?
Why
Am
didn't you
I on
answer it
TV
like
right
this?
now?
Well, I'll tell you how I feel about it.
Yeah,
I'll
because
tell
I
you
didn't
all
want
about
to
it.
be fucking turfed out of my office or her office. Yeah, I know, it was crazy, but it was funny. And also the Zanzibar, I wanted to say when John Kay was on earlier, that I actually I met a girl there where I was on ecstasy in my house at Spadina in college. And I walked out of my house because my friend and his girl were getting it on. And I just didn't want to be around it. And 3 minutes later, I came back with this girl who was like, do you live around here? I'm like, yeah. She's like, okay, because I just came from work at the Zanzibar and I took a bag that I thought was mine. And I was wondering if you could help me. And she opened it up and it was like 2,000 ecstasy pills. And she was like afraid that some guy was going to come after her. And all I cared about was the ecstasy. So I was like, yeah, of course you can come over. No problem at all. And there we were for 5 days. And the other couple too, was a guy who's still my friend. He's like, this is how he describes it. He's like, James, you went out and we were all high. And then 3 minutes later you came back and I just looked over and you were like, hey, what's up, Craig? And you were like massaging this topless girl with a case of drugs laid out in front of
drugs.
you.
Oh, yeah, the Zanzibar is a great
Zanzibar.
spot. Every Tuesday still at Zanzibar. C-section night.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. It's all
Is that like
inclusive.
the area where you sit? Oh, I want to sit in the
No.
C-section
It's just
too?
like it's people that have had C-sections perform
Oh,
because
really?
they're
Are
not
you being
they're
funny?
not exclusive. Yeah, I'm being serious.
Is that like
C-section night Tuesdays.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
All
It's
right.
really cool.
When is
Anyway, have
like
a great
third
day.
nipple night? That would be.
It's Wednesday. Have a great day, everybody.
you too,
Thanks
man.
for watching. Thanks, James. James D. Fiore at blackballmedia.ca is where you can find him. James D. Fiore on Twitter. That's it for us. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it very much. Thanks to Alex. Thanks to John Kay. Thanks to Wayne Hanna. I forgot he was on for like an hour and I almost forgot his name. Really appreciate it. Thanks to our sponsors at Easy Auto Financial. Easy Auto Financial. Check them out today. Lovely people. They want to get you in a car, and when they get you in a car, they get you your financing in the car that you want, and it doesn't cost you a dime. People charge for financing, not these guys. EasyAutoFinancial.ca. No obligation either. If you're in the market for a car and your credit sucks, no big deal. They got you covered. Also want to thank our friends at EdsFineImports.com. EdsFineImports.com. He sells Gitch, luxury branded underwear. You want them, you can wear them. They're awesome. I wear them every day. That's all I wear. All black, camouflage in case there's an accident. It's just a thing up, but he's got other colors. He's got yellow, green, blue, red. He's got a bunch of different colors. Go check him out. Canadian made too, which is awesome. And he's a good man. And you want to support Canadian business, and you need underwear. Everybody needs underwear, guys. If you need the best underwear on the planet, this is luxury underwear with the pouch in the front. It's called Gitch. Promo code is Gitch, and then the number 3. It's all yours. Go get it. Order online. Awesome. He's a great guy. Also, Domination. Domination.com is AI software that we use to produce stuff here, and you can do the same thing. Try them today. DMNTN.com. Again, DMNTN.com. It's totally free to try once, and then you're going to be hooked, and then you're going to want to order the service because it makes producing content easy, minutes instead of hours. Try them today, DMNTN.com. And, of course, Blue Microphones, part of the Blue Crew here at DeanBlundell.com. Check out all the things they have to offer. If you're a gamer, streamer, podcaster, and more, if you record, you need cameras, you need headphones, you need microphones, you need anything to do with any of this, at Blue Mic. BlueMic.com. I get that wrong every time, and I say it like 5 times a week, maybe more, maybe 10. BlueMic.com, at Blue Microphones is where you can find them. Check them out. We use all this stuff. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. Be well. Treat each other kind. Only believe the truth. And from there, we'll all figure